Does your listeners understand you whenever you speak, or you allow them to be guessing about what you are saying? Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's class. My name is Stephen Ode, and in today's class, we'll be looking at technical writing techniques. When you are doing your technical reports, there are techniques that you must employ for you to be able to bring out a very solid technical report. So, in technical writing, it is very important, like I quoted before in one of my videos, that the most brilliant idea is useless if no one understands it. So, it is very important for people to understand whenever you communicate with them. It is very important for you to communicate your idea brilliantly to the people. While some technical words may be completely unfamiliar to some persons, others may convey different meanings to different people. Take, for instance, when you are reporting about the word ground, some persons may see ground as the part of the earth that is below the atmosphere, whereas other people may view ground as a 0 point in an electrical system. So when you mention the word ground, some persons will be looking at ground as a different thing, while others will be looking at ground as another thing. So in defining technical terms, it is therefore important for you to ensure that every word conveys exactly one meaning to the reader. So when you are defining your technical terms, you should ensure that every reader is getting exactly one meaning. So if the ground you are using is the one for electrical engineering, you should be able to state it clearly in your technical report so that some persons will not mistake the ground for another thing. So that helps you to keep your audience in check. That helps you to write a solid technical report because you don't allow your audience to be guessing. So it is very, very important that every word conveys exactly one meaning to the reader. So what are some of the things that you should define? We have four categories of things that we should define. We have four categories of things that we should define. Number one, we have the common words for common ideas. In this one, you don't need any definition. No definition is needed. These are common words and you are using them for common ideas. In this case, don't use big word when a small word will do. Then we have common words for uncommon ideas. Common words for uncommon ideas. Everyday words with specialized meaning. In this case, define if they may confuse your audience. We are going to talk more about it. I'm just mentioning them. Then another category of the things we have to define is uncommon word for common idea. You are using an uncommon word for common idea. Avoid using them unless it is very essential to convey the desired meaning. We are going to look at that in details. Then the fourth category of the things that we should define is uncommon word for uncommon idea. Uncommon word for uncommon ideas. Many technical words belong here. Always define them. Always define them. Whenever you have uncommon word for uncommon idea, define them. So we have the summary of the things to define. Number one, common word, common idea. No definition is needed. Another category is common word, uncommon idea. You must define here. Here we have uncommon word for common idea. Uncommon word for common idea. Then the last category is uncommon word for uncommon idea. Let's look at them in details. We have common words for uncommon ideas. Common words for uncommon ideas. These everyday words carry specialized technical meanings. You should define them when you suspect your audience may interpret them differently. These words are common, but you are going to use them for uncommon ideas. So because of that, you will need to define them. These are words that we use every day, but they have specialized technical meaning. Take for instance the word ground. When you hear the word ground, two things will come to your mind. It is either the ground that you are standing on, or it is the ground for electrical engineering. So because we are doing technical writing, you should be able to define ground so that it will carry a single meaning. And the ground here refers to a point in an electric circuit at zero potential used as reference. So the ground we are talking about here is a point in an electronic circuit at zero potential. So it is very important for you to define common words when you are using them for uncommon ideas. Always define common words when you are using them for uncommon ideas. Another thing is excite. When you hear the word excite, what comes to your mind is excitement. So when you tell somebody, when you mention the word excite, somebody will be thinking about excitement. So to avoid communicating the wrong idea to this individual, so the best thing you have to do here is to define that common word, because you are using it for an uncommon idea. So the word excite here talks about to move an electron to a higher energy level. You see what I'm talking about here now? The word excite in my technical report is to move an electron to a higher energy level. But an ordinary person may think the excite you are talking about here is the excitement, whereas it is not. So you should be able to define those common words that you are using for uncommon idea. Another example is the word governor. If I mention the word governor, your mind as a politician will be going towards the governor of your state. Your mind, the first thing that comes to your mind is the governor of your state. But in technical writing, because I'm using the common word governor to represent something that is uncommon, I will have to define it. So in automobile engineering, a device that regulates engine speed is what is known as governor. You understand? The word ground, the word excite, the word governor, these are common words, but I'm using them for uncommon ideas. The need for me to define them properly to ensure I don't communicate different meaning to my intended listener. So these are categories of words that we need to define. Another category is uncommon words. When you are using uncommon words, it is very, very important for you to use them with care. Know the audience you are communicating with. Avoid using uncommon words for common ideas, except when it is very, very important. Take for instance, you can use the word anesthesia instead of painkiller only when writing for medical practitioner. If you are not writing for medical practitioner, you can simply use the word painkiller, which is a common word for a common idea. But because you are talking to medical practitioner, they understand the word anesthesia, which is an uncommon word, and it is for painkiller. So you can use it there. That is an uncommon word for common idea. You can say compare instead of juxtapose. Compare instead of juxtapose. Compare here is a common word. So don't bring the uncommon word juxtapose, because not everybody might understand the word juxtapose. So the point here is that clarity over complexity. Clarity in communication is very, very important. So we'll ensure that whatever we are saying, people understand it and they can make meaning out of it. That is when communication has happened. Another category, which is the fourth category, is uncommon word for uncommon idea. Many technical words fall here. Many technical words that you can think of fall into this category. So you should always define them. And that is why in this course today, we'll be focusing more on definition. On definition. We are going to look at a lot of definition, formal definition, informal definition, extended definition, and all of that. For instance, this is an example of an uncommon word for an uncommon idea. The word rheology. Rheology in lubrication engineering. When you mention the word rheology, it is a term that is unfamiliar to most readers. When you mention the word rheology, it is a term that is unfamiliar to most readers. So what you need to do is that you will need to give a clear definition of what the word rheology means. So when you are writing your mini project, when you are writing your main project, you should be able to define words that are uncommon. So how do we define? How do we define? There are three basic ways that we define words in technical writing. There are three basic ways that we define words in technical writing. The number one way, please take note of all of these things I'm telling you. There are three ways you define words in technical writing. Number one is informal definition. Informal definition. The second number is formal definition, while the third number is extended definition. I'm going to look at each of these definitions one after the other. So please pay close attention to understand how you can define words. So what are those things? We have established that when we have an uncommon idea and we want to use an uncommon word, there is a need for us to define them. So how do we define? And we have said that we have three ways of defining words. Number one is informal definition. Number two is formal definition. And number three is extended definition. We are going to deal with each of them in detail. Now, let's look at informal definition. How do you do informal definition? Informal definition involves simply substituting an unfamiliar word in a sentence with a familiar one. Is that clear enough? Informal definition involves simply substituting an unfamiliar word in a sentence with a familiar one. Take for instance, it is clear that the data is skewed. The word that is unfamiliar here is the word skewed. So if I substitute the word skewed in this sentence with the word not symmetrical is a familiar word. So what I have done to this is that I have defined it in an informal way. So this is an example of informal definition. It is clear that the data is skewed. That is, the data is not symmetrical. That is an example of informal definition. Another example of informal definition is this: solvent extraction must be followed by detoxification. Detoxification is the word that is unfamiliar in this sentence. So for me to define it informally, for me to do an informal definition here, I will simply replace it, or I will just put a dash, or in a bracket, I will just put the complete removal of poison from a substance. So the complete removal of poison from a substance is the meaning of what? Detoxification. So this has brought us to the point that informal definition simply involves substituting an unfamiliar word in a sentence with a familiar one. So the moment you are able to substitute an unfamiliar word in a sentence with a familiar one, that is what you have done. You have done your informal definition. Now, let's look at formal definition. A formal definition has three distinct parts. A formal definition has three distinct parts and always follow this structure. Please, this thing I'm telling you, I want you to take note of them. They might come out in your exams. Very important. A formal definition has what? Three distinct parts. and always follows this structure. Number one, the specie, the genus, and the differential. So whenever you see a formal definition, it has three distinct parts. It has three structures. Take for instance, extrusion is a metal forming process where a billet is forced through a die of defined profile. Now, I've defined the word extrusion, but I've given it a formal definition, so there is a breakdown. So if you look at the specie, that is where the word is being defined. The specie is where the word is being defined. The genus, this is the class or family where the word belongs to. Then the differential, that is what sets it apart from others in that family. So extrusion is a metal forming process where a billet is forced through a die of defined profile. So extrusion here falls under the specie, is a metal forming process fall under genus, that is the family or the class it belongs to. Then where a billet is forced through a die of defined profile falls under differential. So it is very important for you to understand this breakdown when you are doing a formal definition. Another example is chloroform is a thin colorless liquid given as vehicle to make a person unconscious during surgery. So chloroform is that thing that they give to a patient to make that person unconscious during surgery. So this is a formal definition because it has the specie, it has the genus, and it has the differential. So it is very important for you when you are doing your formal definition to understand all of this that I am talking about. Now the next thing is extended definition. Extended definitions are used in situations where a formal definition alone is not adequate to fully convey the intended meaning. Listen very well. You are to use extended definition when the formal definition alone is not adequate to fully convey the intended meaning. So when you have done your formal definition and you discover it is not enough to convey the adequate meaning, then you use the extended definition. Extended definition are extensions of formal definition and may take any of the form below. So extended definition are what? They are extensions of formal definition. So it's just like you are extending formal definition. It is from there that you have your extended definition. Extended definition may take any of the following forms. Take note: further definition, examples and instances, comparison, negation, are you with me? Negation, physical description, analysis, and word origin. Please take note of these things that I'm telling you. I say that how to define, we say that we can define in three ways, right? The informal, the formal, and the extended definition. Then under extended definition, now we are saying that we have further definition, examples and instances, comparison, negation, physical description, analysis, and word origin. So now let's look at them one after the other. We said, and we have established before now, that when a formal definition alone isn't enough, we extend it using what? These techniques. Further definition. Define unfamiliar words within the formal definition itself. For instance, the example we gave above, you can define die and profile in the extrusion example. So that when you mention die, it will not like somebody has died. No. You understand? So the word die there, you can define it. That is what former or further definition. You can define die there. That is what further definition. You can also do an extended definition with examples and instances. Look at it. Fresh water and most non-colloidal fluids are examples of Newtonian fluid. For those of you that are doing fluid mechanics, you understand? So fresh water and most non-colloidal fluids are examples of Newtonian fluid. So now we are trying to tell them that fresh water is an example of Newtonian fluid. So we are using example as an extended definition. Then comparison. Take for instance, voltage in electronics can be likened to pressure in fluid flow. So you are trying to explain fluid flow to an individual that understands voltage. So you are using what he knows to explain what he doesn't know. So you are not using voltage in electronics can be likened to pressure in fluid flow. Because in voltage there is potential difference. So in fluid flow, the pressure at one point can be greater than the pressure at the other point. You understand me? So comparison can help you to do your extended definition. So comparison can help you to do your extended definition. Take note of this. Another way you can do your extended definition is negation. Eliminate what something is not. Take for instance, infrared does not belong to the visible spectrum. You are trying to tell someone that infrared does not belong to the visible spectrum. With this negation, you have been able to explain that infrared is not part of visible spectrum. It's not part of visible spectrum. So anybody that is listening to you will understand that infrared is not part of the visible spectrum. What is the negation here? Not. This not is the negation here. Another way you can do extended definition is physical description. Most diodes are black with a silver ring at one end indicating the cathode. You are describing the diode physically so that people can have an understanding of what you are talking about. And that becomes an extended definition. Diodes, you are making people understand that diodes is black or diodes are black and they have silver ring. They have silver ring at one end, and that silver ring is indicating the cathode of the diode. So that has given you, that physical description has given you an extended definition. You can see that my charger has a long cord and it is 2-pin or it is 3-pin that helps me to plug it to the socket. That is a physical description. With that description, anybody that sees something that looks like that will be, oh, this is a charger, this is a diode. So if I see something that is black and it has a silver ring at one end, I will be thinking towards, oh, this is a diode. So that is an extended definition. Another way under extended definition is analysis. This describes the parts and their function. For those in electrical engineering, there is something we call full wave rectifier. For full wave rectifier, it has 4 diodes that are connected in a bridge configuration. They are connected in a bridge configuration. It's just like they are connected in a square. So you are analyzing that in a full wave rectifier, 4 diodes are connected in a bridge configuration. That analysis will help anybody to understand what you are talking about. Then the last but not the least here is word origin. That is etymology, the origin of the word. If you see the word centrifugation, Centrifugation is derived from centrifuge. So the origin of the word here is centrifuge. So what is a centrifuge? A centrifuge is a device that is used for spinning mixture. So when you're able to define centrifuge, you should be able to know the meaning of centrifugation. So word origin can also be used for extended definition. These things I'm teaching you are very, very, very important. And it is important for you to take note of them. Now, the next thing is, where do we place those definitions? Where do we place those definitions? Number one, we can place our definition in the text. In the text. Define the term in line at first use. This is best for short, simple definitions. When your definitions are simple, when your definitions are short, put them in the text. Put your definition in the text when they are very, very simple. Like the way we did to detoxification. The definition of detoxification is very simple. So we put it in the text, in the body of our write-up. Then another place you can place your definition is in your footnote. Place your definition in the footnote when that definition in that particular place will disrupt the flow of the main text. When you know that if you place that definition in that main text, it will disrupt the flow of that main text. So you put a mark there. When you know that if you put that definition in that text, it will disrupt the flow of that main text. What are you going to do? You are going to put that definition in the footnote. That is why if you are using the Holy Book, either Quran or Bible, you will see that there are some words that when you go down, you will see their definition, you will see their references. Those things are footnotes. You understand? Then another place you can put your definition is at the glossary. At the glossary. Collect all key terms at the end of the document for easy reference. For easy reference. So let's go to the last thing for this class. What are the key takeaways from this class? What are the key things that we must go home with in this class? Number one, clarity is the most important thing. So you should be able to identify whether a word is common or a word is uncommon. You should be able to understand whether a word is common or a word is uncommon. If I mention the word ground, is ground common or uncommon? Ground is common. If I mention the word detoxification, detoxification, is it common or uncommon? It is uncommon. You understand? So you should be able to define them. Then the idea that you are talking about, is it a common idea or an uncommon idea? You should be able to note that. So ensure you classify first. Classify first. Then, after classifying, what are you going to do? Choose your method. Are you going to use informal definition? Are you going to use formal definition? Or are you going to use extended definition? And the method you are going to choose is dependent on how complex what you are communicating is. The method you are going to employ is dependent on how complex what you are explaining is. Then you should place your definition strategically. Place your definition strategically. Where are you going to place your definition? Is it in the text? Is it in footnote? Or in glossary? Depending on the context. If you place it in that text, is it going to blend with the text? Or is it going to disrupt the flow of the text? That will determine the position you are going to place your definition. So remember, the goal is what? One meaning, one interpretation every time. So if I'm doing my technical report, if I'm doing my mini project, if I'm doing my main project, if I'm doing my IT report, if I mention a particular word, my lecturers or anyone who is reading that technical report should be able to have one meaning and one interpretation. So this is where we end today's class. If you have not subscribed to this channel, subscribe, click on the like button and click on notification so that when I post the next video, you will have access to it. Thank you, and God bless you.